Good morning, guys. Life is tough. Life is hard. Everybody goes through their challenges. Everybody has moments where things aren't going well and they feel down in the dumps. Whether it's from a relationship perspective, whether it's with your finances, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your health, whether it's with your state of mind, everybody goes through hard times. Now, resilience is a word that gets thrown around willy-nilly a bit too often, and I don't think enough time is spent really delving into what resilience really is. Traditionally, we think, oh, it's just bouncing back from hardship, it's getting knocked down and standing back up. But what happens is, to be resilient, we need to understand that when we go through a hard time, it's understanding what got us to that point. What was happening? Was there a trail of events that led to that point of being down in the dumps? Was it something that I wasn't aware of around me that if I had have been aware of it, essentially it could have helped me overcome that issue and stop me getting there in the first place? So being resilient isn't just copying hit after hit after hit after hit and just repeating what you're doing. It's about recognizing behaviors and being able to modify the things you do to stop them from coming up again, or those hardships from coming up as frequently. So it's not just about saying, water off a duck's back. Sometimes that doesn't work. Now, a lot of the time when things happen, a lot of the reason for that is it's what we're doing personally. It's our lack of communication. It's our lack of awareness. And what happens, we take things for granted in our life. So often when things start to change, it builds up anxiety and stress, and we say, who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese? This is a book by Dr. Spencer Johnson, and it's an analogy about a couple of pairs of mice in a maze and how the different attitudes lead them different ways. And it's been a world-renowned book. I read it a few months ago, and it really helped me to enlighten me as to analogies like, doing things with your slippers on was an analogy for one of the mice in there, where you're not on the top of your game in certain areas. You're not as sharp as you once were. So it can raise awareness in certain areas where you may have been falling by the wayside. Resilience is also really important in terms of our social relationships. So often the people who are most resilient and most healthy in their mindset have a very supportive network of people around them. So you got to think to yourself, if your friends and family around you are really struggling, don't just palm them off to the wayside. What I want you to think about is listening to them and letting them express themselves and let them know, yeah, it's really hard and it sucks. So what are we going to do about it? So rather than just going, things will be fine, I'm sure, life's great, think about all the positive things, the sun's shining, sometimes it's important to say to them, what can we do about this? And life does have its ups and downs, but just like Newton, we know that what goes up must come down. But in emotion, what we know as well is when you go down, there's always going to be a moment when you come back up. So after you've been doing this little roller coaster for a while and you start to better understand your behavior and how to manage your emotions, we can start to find much more steady territory. So it's up to us as friends and family members to make sure we can support those around us as best as possible. So being resilient isn't just about taking a hit and standing back up. Being resilient is about being able to change your behaviors that get you down to those dark places. Being able to have the right support networks at the right time and essentially help us overcome those problems. Now, if you're somebody who says, I get no support from my friends, I get no support from my family, I want you to think about your behavior and maybe you could start implementing changes to help change the dynamic in that environment. So often when you show somebody that, you can be a shoulder when they're struggling and, you can be an ear when they need to talk, often that'll come back around. And even if you're finding that you're not having much success, you can just have a chat and just say, look, I need some support. Don't be afraid to say, I need some reassurance, I need some support, I'm struggling a bit at the moment. Be honest. The reason I'm doing this video right now is because, yet again, I've heard of more people committing suicide greater levels of depression, greater levels of anxiety around Australia. And the Australian culture of, oh, forget about, let's go out for a few beers, is not working at all. So we need to change something, and we need to be the ones to start making the change or evolving the culture at the moment. So stay strong if you're struggling. The lesson is that we need to analyse how we got to those positions and maybe change our behaviours that are leading us there. I highly recommend this book, Who Moved My Cheese? If you're a bit unsure about, how to overcome those difficulties of life and, where you're at with your manhood or another issue, Steve Biddulph's got some fantastic work with his book, world-renowned again, Australia-renowned, called Manhood, which helps explain that, life is tough and sometimes we don't get those conversations from our parents when we're young kids. So, the fact that you haven't learnt this yet, it's not a bad thing. There's still time. Alright guys, have a fantastic week. I hope this has been a thinking point for you at least, or hopefully it'll help you start overcoming some of those issues you're having and reassessing where you're at. Okay, bye for now.